Welcome back to the channel, guys. So earlier I did a video talking about this dude out in California who was selling modified Nintendo Switch systems and selling micro SD cards with games loaded on them for the Nintendo Switch, and also selling NES Classic editions that were modded with like 800 games. And it got me thinking, because a handful of people had brought this up as well. What about these fools in the mall selling counterfeit NES Classic editions? How are these guys getting away with this? So as you see on Amazon, these things are available like 25 bucks, and they do include 600 games. Most of them are NES games, tons of copyrighted games on there, tons of little bootleg homebrew crap as well. I do not recommend these things whatsoever. But just the other day I was in the mall and I took a couple pictures, and I was going to use this for something and I forgot all about it until I read these comments. But the second I walked into this mall, this was the first thing I seen past the food court. You walked into the mall, food court's there, and then boom, NES Classics, fake ones. I seen this and I was just like, how do these people get away with this? This is nuts. They have these boxes sitting here, 600 games, 620 games in one on their version. They had a bunch of monitors set up with the systems. You could play them, all that good stuff. And I was just like, dude, I got to take a couple of pictures of these things. This is just ridiculous. I waited around to see if I could find somebody to ask, how much are these things selling for? Nobody was around. Nobody came to help me. I could have just walked away with one of these things. But from what I'm hearing, a lot of these little pop-up kiosks in the mall, they're selling them for between 80 to 100 bucks, you know, maybe different depending on where you're at. Rip-off alert, right? But how do these guys get away with this stuff? If somebody selling modified NES Classics on OfferUp is getting sued, how does a shop like this be able to do business? This just, it like really reminds me of back in the day, these things right here, these power players. Back in, if I can remember correctly, I think it was the late 90s, early 2000s, you saw this crap everywhere in the malls. There'd be a lot of those little pop-up kiosks just like this selling these things, having TVs set up. You know, there was little CRTs and flat panel CRTs. I remember this, showcasing these systems. You could play them, you could play Duck Hunt. And they came with these stupid looking N64 controllers. And a lot of them, they were like, oh, it has 70, this one I think it says 76,001. There were some other ones I remember, 78,001, 62,001. It's like, how the hell does this thing have 76,000 games in it? How is that even possible? At the time when this thing was released, was there even 76,000 games total? No, it just repeats itself over and over again. But I remember the reason why they would use these N64 controllers was because a lot of them, and I never bought one of these. I was always intrigued by them, though. I seen them in the malls and was just like, what the hell is this? Like, I was just confused. But if you flip the controller over, it had a cartridge port on the bottom, on a lot of them anyway. Either for Famicom or NES. A lot of the time they were Famicom ports. And you could plug in a damn game underneath the controller and play that way, and play whatever game you had the cartridge for. I couldn't imagine holding the controller and having this cartridge flopping around all over the place. It doesn't make any damn sense. I don't know how popular these things were, but they were available for a while. And you would see them all over the place. And at the same time, I remember being, more so in the anime than I am now. And there were these stores, and I remember there was 3 malls in particular, and they all had the same store. It wasn't a pop-up, it wasn't a kiosk, it was in an actual retail space, a nice size store, like a size of like a Hot Topic or something. And they would have anime DVDs all over the place. They would have figures, collectibles, all that kind of stuff. And these guys, they were popular because what they were selling was counterfeit anime on DVD. They were all imported from China, and just really, some of them were good quality, some of them were bad. I'm just being honest. But you couldn't beat the price, especially then with anime just costing so much money on DVD, and you would wait, for whatever series you were watching. A DVD would come out and maybe have a few episodes on it. They didn't have complete series at the time. It was, you waited until it was translated and put out, and you would buy the disc with 3 or 4 episodes, whatever it was, sometimes even less. and just try to accumulate them. And then eventually maybe they would put out box sets and stuff like that. But you were spending hundreds of dollars usually to get a complete series of an anime. And these fools, they would sell these counterfeits. You would get the whole series for anywhere between like 20 to 50 bucks. Now, if you knew other places to go online and whatnot, you can get stuff cheaper, which leads me to another company that I remember was very popular at this time with counterfeit anime anyway, and that was Sun Devil DVD. I believe they were out in Arizona, and they got their asses busted. They got arrested, all sorts of stuff. They got raided, tons of money, like, taken from them. I don't even remember everything that was happening, but there was just tons of craziness with Sun Devil DVD, and that's what they were known for. They were known for the counterfeit anime stuff. They got shut down, and soon after that, I remember like the shops that were selling the anime. The one store, I can't remember the name. Like I said, there was 3 locations. They all disappeared. These kiosks selling these little fake Nintendos, they disappeared. If you're out in California, there's a place called Frankensons. And Frankensons is like a big swap meet type thing, but it's just all collectibles, new stuff, sports memorabilia, video games, collectible toys, Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, anything you could think of they have, and it's an awesome place to go. I remember there was at least 2 or 3 places there that were selling counterfeit movies and anime, and they wound up shutting down as well. A lot of these places that were doing this kind of stuff, they got kicked out, they got shut down, they had legal action against them because what they were doing was illegal. They were infringing on copyright, and they were profiting off of other people's intellectual properties without having any kind of legal right to do so. They weren't selling legal merchandise through proper means. They were selling counterfeited stuff. And that time it disappeared, and then you didn't see that stuff anymore. I can't walk into the mall or even Frankensons and find bootleg anime. It just doesn't exist for the most part. If you guys have examples, let me know. But the malls that I go to, the places that I go to, I don't see that stuff anymore. So when I saw this with all the craziness that's going on with Nintendo, going balls deep on people selling their games illegally, I'm just like, how? How does a kiosk like this exist? This makes absolutely no sense to me. Now, I understand whoever owns this, whoever's running this, might not even be a legitimate business. They may have just got a seller's permit. Anybody and their mama in the state of California can get a seller's permit, and for some places to have a retail space, that might just be enough. A lot of swap meets, stuff like that, all you need is a seller's permit, and you could set up shop. So I don't know if it's the same with the malls, but I do know from my own experience being in business, when you apply to get retail space at a place like this, be it a kiosk, a little pop-up shop, or an actual retail space, you have to go through an application process and explain what it is you are selling. So I'm 100% sure whoever's running this had to go through a similar process and explain what it is they are selling. How did they get through? Whoever audits this stuff and approves the applications, who in their right mind would see this crap? And if they lied to get in, like Frankensons, for example, they audit your stuff. If you're a seller there, you cannot sell stuff that's not what you applied to sell. Sometimes it could be a broad range of things that you could sell, but if you have very specific things, they have people who audit it because they don't want to be getting into the trouble in the past of people selling counterfeit stuff there. I'm sure certain stuff probably still slides in and is sold, but even at a place like Frankensons, which is, a collectible swap meet, you have to go through an application process, tell them what it is you plan on selling, show them all this stuff. Who the heck approved these little kiosks in the malls? Is it just to make the money off of the retail space? Because these things are not cheap. To have a little kiosk, I know in some places, depending upon location, you could be spending like $2,500 a month. Some places, you could be spending that in a week for your rent for that spot. So these guys got to be pushing these things like crazy. It just baffles me. Who in their right mind's buying this stuff? Now, support Nintendo, don't support Nintendo. I don't care either way what direction people go. But this right here, it's just garbage. For the money places are asking, even on Amazon, what is it, 25 bucks? I still wouldn't pay that. I would rather pay the $60 for an actual NES Classic Edition, have it looking nice, feeling nice, having the games running well, add my own, very easily, do what I want with it, versus this crap that you can't do nothing but mess with the nonsense they have built into it. It's like buying one of those cheap 501 NES cartridges. That's the way they look. And it's just a bunch of crappy games on there, and only a handful of good ones. So it's like, I hope people aren't getting suckered by this, because I had somebody call me just the other day asking about this. Like, hey, what would you recommend? I want to get back into the NES. I had an NES, somebody stole it. I want to just play Super Mario Brothers, like, the original 3 Super Mario Brothers and maybe a handful of other games. What would you recommend? And obviously there's going to be certain things I could recommend. You guys know what's up, Raspberry Pi, so on and so forth. But the person had brought up somebody selling something similar to this. I didn't see it. I don't know 100%, but the way they described it, I'm pretty damn sure it was this thing. 601 games, looks like an NES, comes with 2 controllers. Person was selling it for like 45, 50 bucks, something like that. And I'm like, no, just stay away from that. Buy an actual NES Classic Edition if you want to play those games, because if you want to add more, you can. But I would highly recommend beyond that, get a Super Nintendo Classic Edition. That way you're getting the actual nice controllers with 6. I mean, not to say the NES Classic controllers aren't nice, but to broaden your scale of games you could play, get the Super Nintendo one with 6 buttons. You play NES, Super Nintendo, various other systems if you hack it, right? But that's what I recommend. I said stay away from that kind of stuff, because you're going to get what you pay for, and there's not really much you can do with it. You can't change anything. The output looks like garbage. There's really no options with this thing. You get, this version, you get those turbo buttons, but big flipping deal, right? So this was just something that I had to talk about, because it's just something I found so amazing that these guys are getting away with. I'm sure, it's just for the holidays. They're going to be in and out and disappear. Whatever's hot next year, they're going to bring it out and try to make money off of it. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Have you been seeing stuff like this out there in the wild in your mall? Like I said, this is straight from the mall that's not too far from me. I'm sure some of you guys know this mall, because a lot of you who watch my channel, or not a lot of you, but a nice handful of you guys actually live fairly close to me and have seen me out and about and whatnot. So I am sure some of you will know what mall this is. But let me know. Really do appreciate you guys hanging out. Smash that like button. Subscribe. Make sweet ass love to that notification bell, because I know you want to. And with that said, guys, I will catch y'all next time. Peace out. Bye-bye, and boom!